Check 11111. Hey. Oh man. Sometimes I just have to make notes. You know, why bounce around here in this blue void with me if I'm not prepared, right? Hope you're doing well where you are. We're just waiting for the ye old couch bot to tell us that we're live. We're gonna check over here on YouTube, make sure that we got audio. And we do. And we do. You might notice if you subscribe to the channel that something like this live stream appears every day in the main feed. It's called Feedback Loop. So we do clip out some of this stuff and clean it up a bit. You'll get notified when those posts if you click that subscribe button right below me. It is almost Thanksgiving, like less than 24 hours away. For those of you in the United States, there are Thanksgivings in other parts of the world. I think Canada has theirs. Is it October? I can't recall. I know that there are multiple versions of Thanksgiving. Just as Santa Claus is called different things in different countries. We have a light load today. And that's okay because, again, it's the day before a holiday. But we do have a couple of students in here, so I wanted to make sure that we get this recording in before we take tomorrow off. Tomorrow will be a no feedback loop day. For students, if you're watching this, I will check the queue and I will make sure to answer questions in a timely manner, but we're not recording tomorrow morning, so everybody just sleep in. Looks like we're out of the gate. CouchBot has fired, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Time for the feedback loop. So good to have you along. We've got a couple of students in here today in radically different parts of the program. Maddie's back, running through CSS pseudo classes, which is always fun. It's always one of those things that, you know, we all understand what a pseudo class is because we all have seen them when it's something that we interact with. Like, for instance, in this case, like if you hover over a button and it changes color, that's a pseudo class likely being utilized. What's less clear is like how to use nth child, for instance. If you've never studied pseudo classes, you have no idea what nth measurements mean in CSS. It's just a way to pass numbers and keywords through to make your designs react accordingly. But it's, this exercise does a little bit of that, so we're going to take a look at how Maddie did. And then Ricardo's back, and Ricardo has updated his user flow or user stories, and we're going to take a look at what he's got. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and transition screens and get this underway. All right, so we've got Ricardo here, and Ricardo, we're going to start here with your user stories. Thank you. He changed it from user flows to user stories, and I've reordered these. And one of the reasons why I've filtered these, and we could flip it the other way too, and just look at teachers. Oh, well, that was weird. Let's not do that. Why did this go to the bottom? Interesting. Yeah, it's weird. Let's just put that right there, and then let's do this to where we just let's come in here and let's freeze up to current row. Now, nope. Freeze up to that row. And now that scrolls accordingly. Okay, so you've got your little spreadsheet going here, and now we're looking at students and then teachers. The reason I like looking at these in buckets where the user is all the same, and you can also, I'm not sure what's going on here with this spreadsheet that you've picked up here, But you could also just as easily change this to students and just have these user, and then this could be teachers, because clearly this is picked up from somewhere else. But you could just as easily have all the user stories on this page just be the students, and then flip the other ones for teachers, and then whatever other persona you're creating stories for, you could make this much more robust. And the reason I do that often is because these user stories can get quite long. Like you could have hundreds of these things, and when you begin to have tons of them stack up, it becomes harder to keep them all in one sheet. So it's helpful to use those tabs at the bottom. Specifically, I want to commend you for making these more actionable. I looked these over just a minute ago, and I didn't see anything that was like, how the hell would I do that thing? Like when it says, I want to notify students when one-on-one hours are available. That's an action. That's something that we can really begin working on that. I want to get interaction from students by having them answer questions. Here the wording is just like, I want to make it possible for students to answer questions. The get interaction thing, that may be your goal, but the get interaction isn't something that you can actually do. Now, if you said, I want to, how do you want them to answer the questions? I want to create a way for students to select from multiple choice. I want to create a way for students to select or to enter short answers or essay answers. Like the type of answers become important. That's way more important. The type of answers that the students could give is way more important and would require individual work. Those designs are different than get interaction. So there's still a little bit of work to do there. But I wanted to focus on this concept of the lesson plan, because there's a lot more there that isn't represented currently in this, because you have two things. You have and I see, I want to share the lesson plan. Totally get that. I want to, so this is like, I want to get a link and push it out there. I want to set up the lesson plan. So I click a button that says new lesson plan. Got that. I can see, I can begin to see how this interface is coming together. And it's like, I want to post assignments to the lesson plan. All right, sweet. So I've probably got a list, so I'm going through the flow, and I'm like, okay, create lesson plan. Got it. All right. Add assignment to lesson plan. Got it. Where are the assignments coming from? Right? Because nowhere in this list do we have, I want to create an assignment. I want to, and where are the if this is, I want to post assignments, maybe when you create the lesson plan, you're then creating the assignment as you create the lesson plan. That's an okay thought, but do I have to create a lesson plan to create an assignment? And my gut reaction there is no, because I might want to do that ahead of time. I might want to just create assignments for math. And I don't even know what order they're going to go in yet, but I know that I need to cover all of these various parts of math. And then as the weeks go along, I need to create lesson plans for days, and then I will append as progress allows. Maybe the students aren't moving as fast. But there's also this idea of, okay, I need to create that assignment, and then I need to add assets to that assignment. Like, I need to name it. I need to add instructions. I need to tag it so I can find it later. I need to add images. I need to add worksheets. I need to add videos. I need to add these things. I need to add a date. Like, when was this created? When is it due? When was it last updated? Who was it created by? Like there's a lot of things there that aren't reflected currently in your user stories. And I think that it's important to get in your head this idea of, okay, I want to do this thing. All right, what's the thing that I need to do to allow that to happen? Like there should be a tree of things that like, oh, I want to do this thing. All right, so where is blank coming from that would allow you to do that thing? And then you do that thing. And you list out that user story, and you're like, okay, what what needs to be true for me to do this thing now? And you add that, and you keep drilling down until you get to a point where you're like, okay, I am now at the point of initiation of creation to make this thing happen. There's no other user stories I can tack on below this other than I need teacher to be born. Okay, I need teacher to go to college. Like we don't have to go that far. We don't need to hire the teacher to create the user story. But at some point, there needs to be this like, okay, for this particular flow, these are all the things that must happen so that we get to this point where we can set up a lesson plan that we share. All right? So there's a lot more to drill down on in some areas. Okay? And that's the thing that I want you to focus on, as you go into the Thanksgiving break. Like, okay, what could I drill down on more to make this a reality? And some spots you don't have much to do. I want to have an assistant respond to questions. That's great, but then that means I need to authenticate an assistant to be able to access my workspace, or I need to share access or something. I might need permissions. Like there should be roles in this. Like you have teacher and you have student, but I don't see a user as an assistant anywhere. So is that like one of those secondary roles that we talk about in the writing? We talk about like there's these other people that are kind of on the fringes of the experience. And it sounds like an assistant might be one of those. Okay, so I push user stories and user flows really hard because I really do feel like you can't create an interface of any sort without having this part right. Like it's just impossible. And as what you'll do is you'll be going through and you'll be creating the interface and you're like, oh yeah, I need to do this thing. And then it's like, yeah, that should have been in my user stories. Yeah, that should have been in my user stories. Yeah, that should have been in my user stories. And the user stories are really helpful for baking out how much time is this going to take. If your user stories are way underbaked, then you're going to estimate far less time than you would if you had like a robust set of user stories. So this is helpful to help you create the interface, but it's also helpful for you to go, yeah, this is going to take 3 weeks to do, or this is going to take 3 months to do, or it might take 3 years to do. You just have no idea until you get really into the weeds with this and start really listing out the granular detail. So this is better because it's actionable. Now we need to expand on what are the things that are really necessary for these user stories to exist. And I'm guaranteeing you that you're going to have more than 10 that might all just roll up the lesson plan. Right now you have 10 in total, all right, or thereabouts. Okay, let's take a look at Maddie. Thanks again to Ricardo for submitting that. Maddie is in the interaction realm. I love it. So Maddie, you're using nth child, and if I'm going to lighten this up, just so we can see that bottom line where it's right there. So let's change that to 999, make it even lighter. So you got this idea that there's this bottom bar that this is creating. If we change this to odd, it automatically flips it, which is nice. And you're using nth child. If we change this to 2, change it to 3, change it to n plus 2, should be the last 2. So there's all sorts of little formulas to n. That's just change it to n. I think that's all of them. Plus 1. Yep. Love it. Okay, so that's nth child. You clearly know what you're doing there, or you've figured out what you're doing. The interesting thing that you have here is, as you click, you've got these. You managed to get the interactive state right there for active, and you click anywhere, and that's the key. You trying to figure out where the it's interesting. Could have swore that we made the anchors blocks, but that's neither here nor there. It says you need help organizing this code, and it says did not work, color white. So you've got this color white. Let's just go ahead and note all of that out, and let's talk about why that didn't occur, that didn't work. Well, the first thing I want to focus on is the declaration of black that's here on each of these. So that's H5 and okay, so you've declared these as specifically as black. I don't believe it's necessary because your color is set up here by the card. So if I said purple, it's going to change all of that to purple, right? So if the and this goes back to what we've talked about before, like how can I set my color as high as possible? How can I make these? How can I declare things as high as possible so I'm not repeating myself over and over and over again? The card, if we look at this, how it's written, the card is on this anchor tag, and I honestly don't think you need these divs. If we come back and we say, yeah, there it is. A. There we go. But it's broken a few things here. Like nth child even. There's I don't know why the nth child is not working now. Well, they are working, but they're like oh. I think if we remove these divs, and there's a question mark div down at the bottom. Yeah. Okay. So now it's back to where it was. The anchor tags are just links. Again, they're just boxes in this grand scheme of things. But it's on card that you have a lot of things that are really declared. So that means for me that if I wanted to really change this, I would say card hover color, and I'm going to go use FFF because that's white in hex code. And now as I hover, it's right there. The other way that you were doing it, card hover P, you were only really having to do that because you were declaring a color on each individual element, where the color had already been set and it wasn't necessary. And by the way, because we've declared display block on card, like this all falls apart Well, I thought it was going to fall apart. Um, thought we had to have this set on anchor, because anchor is typically a different element, but it doesn't appear like that it really needs it. And that's the key with code. Like, you can begin like pulling, like, there's unnecessary code that looks like it was a bit that wasn't necessary to call. One of the big reasons for that is we're using display grid. We pulled display grid apart, like, stuff goes crazy. Like, just that one line, everything kind of loses itself. And I'm curious, hover states still work, but look at how bad everything is. Once we lost grid, pull grid back together. You know, it's a much different experience. So that's something I want you to be, cognizant of, is grid. CSS grid cleans up a lot of messes for us, and because of that, what you'll find is that there's a lot of new designers who have never used anything but CSS grid. They'll almost overuse it. I love CSS grid. I'll throw it on everything, but I also know how to use positioning with, like, floats, for instance. I hate floats, but that's what we did before Flexbox and Grid. And Flexbox and Grid, it was really like 2015, 2016. So it's been around for a few years, but there's a lot of people who have become designers since then. And this is all they do. Frankly, when Maddie went through working with me back in 2015, I didn't teach her grid because it wasn't supported. Now it's widely supported. But just understanding that, okay, so grid, like, it all falls apart if grid goes away. For color, it's really simple. Just call the hover on the card itself and set the color there. Don't worry about any of this individual chaining going on here. I will say that I like the fact that, you figured out that on this active state, like, I can hover, but when I click, I get the interaction. And that's really cool that you figured that out. In child, you were using that appropriately. So odd, even. The background here on the hover sets up well. You sorted out, like, what this transition's really supposed to be. You can make it really slow. Actually, that's not where it's happening. You can make that. Oh, weird. What did we? Oh, it was weird. It was like holding on it for some reason. I'm not sure why it was holding on it. CodePen will do that occasionally, where it will seemingly not react to the changes that you've made. But you can see how transition, you can just adjust that and really change how snappy it is, or how like, you can make it feel like it's in molasses. Like, if we change this active state here to 5 seconds, came over here and clicked. Oh, it just feels like it's like being drugged through molasses at that point. Anyway, you've done a good job. Just minor code update. We could rip out all of this, 3 lines here, add a line here, and you're done. And that's, again, the real key is, how can I add those styles at the higher level? Card as a class that's applied to all of this, rather than coming in and going, oh, for this p tag I need something special. For this p tag I need something special. For this h3 I need something special. Like, forget about putting it there. Let's put it up higher. Now, if you need it to change the line height, if you need it to change the letter spacing, by all means, do it down there at that tag level. But if you need to like, oh, I need the color to react, do that at the card level. Do that at like the container. Okay? All right. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. I hope that you have a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Maddie, Ricardo, thanks for submitting work today. I'm going to see some of you in a little bit. The rest of you, I'll see you on Friday. Gobble, gobble.